Islam, even in these current times, in the current climate. Don't be an apologetic. Make it clear who you are, what your identity is, and show your Islam in your speech, in your behavior, in your action, in your appearance. Make it clear who you are. So when somebody sees you in the streets, they can recognize you straight away. That is a Muslim. Let's have respect for him. Stand tall, my brothers in Islam. Be proud to be a Muslim. Make it clear who you are and be just. Because that justice is going to attract people to Islam. Inshallah, especially during these times of injustice. And the world is seeing how unjust this society can be. But you as the Muslim have to stand up tall and make yourselves be seen and heard as the people who bring about justice and peace. So live Islam even in this society and practice the true teachings of Islam, the Quran and the authenticated Sunnah, and they both go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. No matter how many people try and tell you that we just have to follow the Quran and the Quran only, it doesn't work like that. They both go hand in hand. You have to have them both together. We must pay attention to our behavior and example. We must pay attention to our families and our youth. We must pay attention to our families and our youth. And a little point about the youth that I want to mention. Some of the work that we do on the streets, some of the work that we have come together, some local brothers have come together and seen the situation of the Muslims, the way that they behave. And we decided to take that responsibility and deal with some of those issues. And some of the youth that we work with are so far away from Islam, it is actually unbelievable. Maybe not for some, maybe you might believe it. But it's actually unbelievable. And if you don't feel something in your heart for the youth today, then you need to question your iman, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam. I'm talking about the youth who are walking the streets here, in this area, who when we work with them and we try and invite them back to Islam, away from the things that they're doing, the Muslim youth who are involved in the drug dealing, the drug taking, the fornication, the pimping of prostitutes, the alcoholism, the celebrating of violence, fighting for no reason, getting involved in criminal activities. This is the reality of our youth. And I'm not even talking about 18, 19-year-olds, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam. I'm talking about 13 and 14-year-olds who are involved in these activities. And when you talk to them, alhamdulillah, they still have respect. They still have something, a link that they want to have with Islam. But let's look at their level of knowledge. I asked one young brother once. We were just talking, we were making friends with him. We wanted to build some trust. We wanted to get involved in some of the things that we're doing and show them an alternative to their lifestyle. We wanted them to see that there are brothers here who are looking out for them. And in our conversation, we came up to the topic. He asked a question about Islam. So I wanted to break it back to basics. And I asked him, very simply, bro, you know the Shahada? And he looked at me funny. What do you mean, the Shahada? What's that? I said, you know the Shahada, the first pillar of Islam. He looked at me with a blank look. I said, you know, La ilaha illallah. Still, he didn't quite get it. Can you imagine a Muslim who does not know the Shahada? Can you imagine that? There is a lot of work to be done. And if this is the representation of our future for Islam in this country, then where does that leave Islam? And that's something for you all to think about. And the second point that I wanted to mention, apart from holding on to the knowledge of Islam and returning back to seeking knowledge, the second point that I wanted to mention was a responsibility for all you here, sitting here in this masjid today, listening to the khutbah by a regular brother just like you. The importance and responsibility of you as Muslims, not only to correct your behavior, so when the non-Muslims see you, they see Islam, because that's what they will do. That's what they will do. If your behavior is not correct, they will judge Islam accordingly. And the proof of that is what? You don't believe me? You know what the proof is? When I was giving da'wah to a non-Muslim once, he turned around and said to me, he says, well, if Islam is so good, then why you guys can't even follow it properly? If Islam is so good, and you're telling me to correct my life by accepting Islam, then why am I seeing on a Friday night the clubs jam-packed with Muslims getting drunk and trying to fornicate? Because what did he see? He saw the Muslims' behavior as being Islam. And if the Muslims can't respect their own religion, then how do we expect the non-Muslims to? Really? So the important responsibility that we have, apart from correcting our behavior, is to give the message of Islam. Because I believe it is a requirement, it's obligatory upon every Muslim who lives in this country to have the ability to give da'wah. I believe that. Because each and every one of you individuals here are going to be in a position where you might have to give da'wah to a non-Muslim, whether you like it or not. But if you don't have the ability to do so, how are you going to do it? If a non-Muslim work colleague comes and asks you about Islam, what are you going to say to them? Are you just going to make it up on the spot? Are you going to try and muddle your way through? Or are you going to give da'wah? Are you going to call them to Allah? Are you going to challenge their currently held beliefs in an appropriate way? Or are you going to scare them away? That's something else to think about. But I believe it's a responsibility that we must not hide our Islamic identity, and that we must be able to give the message of Islam to the non-Muslims. And bearing all this in mind, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, to finish off the khutbah, I want to highlight the importance of not only living Islam, but also for you all, to give you all the opportunity to get involved. We are organizing 2 events next week for the non-Muslim. And this is an opportunity not only to show your support by attending, but also to maybe even volunteer your time to help make these events a success. Now, the brothers at IDC are known to be holding events and giving da'wah to non-Muslims. The brothers and sisters, I should say. Because we have, mashallah, an excellent team of people who are giving da'wah to non-Muslims as a full-time responsibility. There are brothers in there who have given up their careers to give da'wah full-time to non-Muslims and invite them to this noble deen of al-Islam.